What is up, you amazing people? It's Nima here, and today I'm going to talk about a game that I was quite impressed with. A couple weeks ago, when I saw the pre-order information about it, I decided it's a must-get. It is basically a story of Jules Verne, but told through stories that he would have possibly written. Anyway, it's called Verne, The Shape of Fantasy. And just to be clear, this is not like an autobiography type thing, it's more of a tribute to him. Now, I wish I could say I knew more about him or read more of his books. It's been so long that I just didn't really have time to brush up on all the literature that he created before I played the game, and if I'm being honest, the game was a little bit quicker than I thought it would be. But before we get into this game, please help me on the race to 2,000, as that is my next goal, is to get 2,000 subs. So please like, subscribe, share, do all of that fun stuff. It really helps me out, and it doesn't really cost you much. I mean, it costs you your time, and you'll never get that back, but at least you got to help a green-haired cartoon talk about video games, and that's important. Anyway, let's get back into Verne, Shape of Fantasy. So, in so much of this game, I actually expected it to be a little bit more challenging. I mean, before we even get into the actual story, I can just tell you, like, the gameplay being a 2D puzzle solver where time travel is involved. Those are usually the perfect formula for incredibly complicated, right? Well, fortunately or unfortunately for some, that's not the case with this game. In fact, you're kind of given many options on how you're going to go back in time or fix a situation using your special ability. What is this special ability, you might ask? Well, it's actually an artifact. And in this case, it's actually Jules Verne's ability to interact with the artifact, as he can problem solve with this specific artifact that no one else really can. And that's what makes his ability special. Everyone else just sees it as a regular kind of relic, an artifact that just looks cool. But he actually has the ability to put it to use. And we find this out early on in the game when you're on Captain Nemo's ship. You're part of the crew, but the ship is being attacked by the nation. It all looks very dark from here, and looks like the end is in sight for everyone on the ship, including Nemo himself. But luckily, you're able to escape their attacks, recover this artifact, which you're really uncertain about using. You've studied it, you know it to an extent, but you don't know the power of it. But it's either that or die at a watery grave, so you just have to go with using the artifact. This is when you discover you can just basically teleport people. You can go back in time, you can move things around, you can cause time and space to bend at your will. And while your colleagues were happy that you saved their skin, they still wanted to know more about what actually happened, how it happened, and more about how you're able to control that. So, while you're still running from the nation and no, you are not safe, they also want to pry into what gives you this ability. And that's really where the game really kicks off in many different ways, and I think showcases and touches upon some of the great literature that Verne wrote, at the same time telling its own compelling story. Oh, not to mention the writing, which I think is really good. The actual voice actors are phenomenal. The environment, the set designs, if you will, are very enthralling. Like, it just sucked you into the story that they're trying to tell. No matter how outlandish or fantastical some of the story plots are, it still keeps you engaged and almost enthralled into the story. And that's just, like I said, the environment, the writing, the voice acting, the storytelling, all of these elements are excellent. You can tell it was really handled with a lot of love and care. Even the story pacing, which in sometimes a lot of these games can be a little slow. Let's be honest, especially if you're not huge into the visual novel or the point-and-click adventure type game, the stories can kind of drag a little bit. And that's not the case with this game. I gotta be honest, even as somebody who doesn't like those games as much, I was still very compelled to keep playing the game and keep following wherever the story takes me. And I'll even say this, the music, the soundtrack is excellent. Just phenomenal. I think it matches the story perfect and honestly creates its own depth to the game. The pixel art, I love pixel art, especially when it's done right, and I have to say that this was done right. At first I wasn't sure. I actually thought about this for quite a while because I went back and forth on just how detailed things were. It's not as detailed as it could be in some of the pixel art that I've seen and that I really enjoy, but I think for the actual story, for the environment that the game is welcoming you into, this little bit of blur is actually welcome. And I know that sounds kind of like a backhanded compliment, and I don't mean it that way. It really does just fit the environment very well. It sets the whole thing up. Now, my only real complaint with the game happens to be, well, the gameplay. It is a little simple. By this, I mean that it does help the story flow, it helps the game go quickly, but it's not very challenging, and you can get through it relatively quicker than I thought. I'll say this, I got through chapter 3 in about an hour. That's from the beginning to the end of chapter 3. And while I truly do appreciate a game that doesn't try to just suck every bit of content it can out of the fun of the game, I also felt like I wanted a little bit more time in this world. I wanted to know a little bit more. There were certain questions that were set up in the game but didn't actually have an answer. And to be clear, this wasn't something that happened all the time. And when it did happen, these were slight little things about the story. There was nothing major, no major plot points that went unanswered, let me be clear. But it was just enough that I wish I could have explored a little bit more. And obviously, this also leans to the puzzles just being a little too simple. And honestly, in some ways, I was happy that the puzzles were simple enough, because I've been stopped by other games where it was just too intense and I couldn't figure out the answers, and so I gave up. And that wasn't the case with this. And in fact, it was, like I said, almost the other way around, where it was closer to just a walking sim. And not that that's a bad thing, and even this is not a bad thing, it's just saying that it is noted as a puzzler, a 2D adventure game, and I didn't feel like the puzzles were really that in-depth. There are enough of them, though, that does keep you busy and does keep you engaged in the story. And I think ultimately that's all you can really ask for, especially in a game like this. And I'm one of the most biased people against these kind of games, if I'm being honest. I just don't typically enjoy these visual novel, point-and-click style games. It's just not my thing. But this one was done really well, and I did actually really enjoy it. Now, the game is going for $11.99, and I think that that's probably a decent price for it, especially when you add up all the elements of the game. But like I said, it is a little on the short side, so that might be a turnoff to some people. Personally, I would give this game a solid 8 out of 10. It's a lot of fun, and it's pretty good value. Even more so, I'm very impressed with a lot of the storytelling, like I said before, and it's a world that I don't know that much about, and now I kind of want to know more. So let me know what your thoughts are. Have you checked out this game? Have you heard of this game? Are you familiar with a lot of his actual work, like the literature? Because see, that's a part that I didn't do well on. But anything and everything in that comment section is much appreciated. Oh, and let me know if you guys have any other games that you're checking out, what you're excited for. We're coming up on the month of September, so there's a lot of new games. September's gonna be a pretty exciting month for the Switch. Unlike what the directs were and what they showcased, I would say that there was more just going into actual games that are coming out this month. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are down below. Appreciate each and every one of you guys. Take care, everyone. Love y'all. Bye-bye.